Alright, I'm going to be talking about enjoying and sharing books and stories with children. So why do we share stories with children? Reading storybooks to children is one of the most important things adults can do to support early language and literacy skills. Not only is it educational, but it's also a great way for children to develop a love for books, which is also very important for later reading. Through shared readings, children learn concepts of print. They learn to read from left to right and top to bottom. They also learn phonological awareness. Children can show rhyme recognition. They can recognize letters in their name throughout the story. And it's also important for teachers and parents to talk about different parts of the book, talk about, the front cover, the back of the book, the pages, and also, the author and illustrator. With young children, it can be really fun to do a book walk when you're about to read a story, and that's where you flip through the pages of the book quietly and just show the pictures. And this allows the kids to make predictions about what the story is going to be about. And while reading a story, it's also important to ask children questions and encourage them to make predictions about what's going to happen next to engage them and expand on their thinking and understanding of the story. Make it interactive. And once the children are familiar with the story, it can be fun to leave out parts and let them fill in the words. Kids really enjoy this. Shared readings are a great bonding experience between the teacher and child or between a parent and child. I remember my mom reading to my brother and I before bed every night. And this was a time we could just have alone with our mom and just enjoy books and reading. I still remember specifically her reading this book, Stone Soup, to us, and she'd act out the character of the little old lady. It was our favorite part of the story. She'd say, "Soup from a stone, fancy that." It's important to share books that are at the children's level and interesting to them. Young children are first interested in books with rhyme, rhythm, and repetition. Nursery rhymes are great. I'm just going to share Hey Diddle Diddle for you. This was a rhyming book that I really enjoyed when I was a kid. I just thought it was really, silly and fun. And it goes, "Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle. The cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see such a sport. And the dish ran away with the spoon." And you can just talk about the story with the kids, talk about the rhyming words, and then, ask them, does a cow really jump over a moon? And just, it's really fun and interactive. I also worked with a child with visual impairment, and I really had a hard time getting her interested in books until I decided to create story boxes for her with objects to go along with the story. And I also decided to choose books that were just more relatable to her. Stories about a little girl who was just always sick, and it just reminded me of the little girl that I work with. She was sick so often, and she really enjoyed this story because she could really relate to it. Stories can be more interesting for children if they can relate. So first, when doing a story box with a child, I let them, feel and explore the props. So I'll take out the bucket and I'll either dump out the objects or give them to her one at a time and just let her feel them. So I have an elephant, a book, a can of soup. These are all items that go along with this story. Pajamas and a pillow, and you'll see the rest as I'm reading the story. When Vera Was Sick by Vera Rosenberry. When Vera was sick. Vera was sick. She had spots all over her body. And I have these little sticky spots that I used with my little girl, and I'd stick one on her hand and let her pretend to itch it. She had them between her toes, inside her ears, and the doctor said, "You must stay in bed." Vera's mother put her in the spare room away from everyone. The room was quiet and dark. It was lonely and kind of scary. Vera was too sick to look at books. She was too sick to color pictures with her new crayons. She was too sick to do anything except scratch her spots. And again, I'd have the little girl scratch the spot on her hand. "Mom, come quick," Vera cried. Her tummy ached all over. Vera's mother helped her wobble to the bathroom. Mother brought in the kitty. A big, silky, stuffed pillow. It was used only when someone was sick. The kitty was warm and soft like Grandma, and it smelled so good. Vera sat up and drank some juice. Her mother put pink lotion on all of her spots. And I'd usually open the bottle and dump a little bit of the lotion on her spot on her hand. She read Vera a story, the one about the little elephant. "Go to sleep now," said Mother. Vera tried. Talking and laughing voices, clattering and whirling noises came from downstairs. A sweet baking smell drifted into her room. Slowly and carefully, Vera crept downstairs. Very quietly, she stood in the kitchen doorway. Mother and June were making gingerbread cookies. And I'd open up the bag of cookies and let her have one, a ginger snap. Vera felt hot and dizzy. She sat down on the floor and scratched her spots. June saw her. "Hey, what are you doing here? You're sick." Mother gently carried Vera up to the sick room. She dabbed more calamine lotion on her spots. "Try to sleep, Vera, and don't scratch." Vera lay in bed and lay in bed and lay in bed and lay in bed. Her spots itched and itched. After a long time, Vera heard her father's heavy footsteps on the stairs. He came into the room with a big bouquet of flowers. Vera could hear everyone downstairs eating dinner. Her mother brought her up some hot soup on a tray. Then June practiced the piano for a while, and Vera's father came upstairs to say goodnight and sang her a song. The sick child fell asleep. Days and nights slowly crawled by. Vera began to feel better. She looked at her picture books. She ate food and colored pictures. Sometimes June came in and played games with her. From her window, Vera watched the other children playing outside. She was tired of being sick. A few days later, Vera woke up feeling like her old self again. Her spots no longer itched, and they were almost gone. Vera jumped out of bed. She threw off her pajamas and pulled on her clothes. She was no longer sick. She felt better. Hooray! So this is a great story to read to a child if they are sick, and because they can really relate to it and talk about being sick and how it isn't fun. We would always talk about the end of the story with my little girl about when Vera was feeling better, and I'd ask the little girl that I work with, "What do you get to do when you feel better?" And she'd say, "Spend the night at Grammy and Grampy's." She was always so excited. So again, choosing books that children are interested in and can relate to really makes a difference and engages the children. Shared storybook readings are so important for language and literacy development, so it's important for adults to read to children as often as possible. I'm going to share one of the story boxes that I made for her, and this one ended up being her favorite. The story was called "When Vera Was Sick."